What's cracking, everybody? You're back with Mr. Berger.
And Clarissa.
And Bonnie. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at the most recent set of balance changes.
Extra challenge today.
Alright, let's start by watching the official Clash Royale video on the upcoming balance changes. Alright, well, first things first is coming out on the 7th. It looks like we've got heal reduced down to only 1 Elixir and then getting a significant nerf to his abilities. We got Magic Archer finally getting that first attack speed increase back a little bit. Goblin Giant, HP increase, and the Spear Goblins have a range increase while they're on top of him. The Golemite's death damage pushback is just being reduced a bit. Heal's tower damage is being reduced to match all the other spells in the game. Sparky's getting a minor range increase back, but only 0.25 instead of 0.5. Battle Ram's getting the charge damage reduction, and Barbarian Hut is also getting HP reduction. And over here we got Barbarian Barrel. Deploy time is reduced for that Barbarian popping out. Lastly, you got the Valkyrie. She's just getting a minor buff back to her hit speed attack. Attack speed? Yeah. Man, it is not easy to record with a 60 or 50-pound pit bull, you know, sitting on your lap.
It's a balance change on your lap.
Yeah, no kidding. Alright, guys, let's take a look at these balance changes. So first we have the heal. Ugh, Bonnie, you're making this difficult. First we have the heal. So basically what they're doing with the heal is they're reworking it so that it only costs 1 Elixir. It's getting damage, not damage, but like an effectiveness reduction too. So it heals a lot less. The duration is being reduced, but it only costs 1 Elixir. So this really stands out to me. Something that people are overlooking or may not have thought about right away is that this gives you the opportunity to put the heal in really fast cycle decks, and it only costs 1 Elixir. There's only 2, I think, units in the game right now that only cost 1 Elixir, which is the Ice Spirit and the Skeletons, right? So the heal will now be able to be put in like those Hog cycle decks, and it'll actually work out pretty well in them. Oh, there she goes. Alright, so what do you think about this heal Elixir cost reduction? Any opinions on it?
Well, I've never used it at all. I think I've only gone against it like once.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't affect me too much. But, I don't know, I could consider using it more if it costs less.
Yeah, and that kind of tells you something about the spell. Like, she's only seen it once or twice, because almost nobody ever uses it. The only time you'll ever see it is in those Three Musketeer decks. And it is going to be tweaked so that Fireball and Zap are still going to kill the Three Musketeers even if you cast heal on them. It's because the reduction of the effectiveness of its heal. But, that'll give it the leeway to be put into more decks, like cycle decks and things like that. I would ask Bonnie what she thinks, but she's way over there.
She just would like the sparkles, probably. It's like, why are you doing this?
Bonnie, what do you think of the heal reduction? The reduction in the elixir cost and the effectiveness of its heal power.
Well...
Alright, next we have the Magic Archer. Now the Magic Archer was nerfed pretty hard, and a lot of people were really upset about it because it's just such a fun card to play. It had a very high skill cap because of the narrowness of his projectile. It was just very small, so it only hit like a few units in a very small path, very thin path. So because of his massive range and really, small path of his projectile, it made him a very high skill cap card. And people really liked him, and I think he was in a really good spot. And, he's a great substitute for, Musketeer or Executioner or a lot of different other cards like that. But then that hit speed reduction to that first attack really just kind of buried him into the ground. Like, he completely became a dead card. So I'm glad that they're buffing his first attack hit speed again. Now, it's not going all the way back up to what it was at, but it's definitely getting a noticeable increase. So I think it'll bring him back into the meta. It'll kind of solve what his problem was, which is that he countered swarms really well. I think that's why they did the hit speed reduction for the initial attack. But it'll make him viable again, I think. I'm excited to see him back in the meta because honestly, he's a really fun card. I really enjoy playing with him. What do you think about the Magic Archer?
I think that's cool. I mean, again, it's not one that I encounter too much, but I use him like in the war battles.
And yeah, and like the draft challenges and stuff.
Yeah, and he's useful like as backup for a tank or something. That's how I use him anyway. So I mean, it's kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
not a huge effect on me. But
yeah, not a huge effect. Mostly you're going to be affected by the cards that directly affect your ladder deck, right? Yeah. Alright, the next thing that we have here is the Goblin Giant. Alright, so the Goblin Giant is getting a hit point increase of 3%, and the Spear Goblin range is going to be increased, and my understanding is that the Spear Goblin range is only going to be increased while they are on top of him. Right? So let's see, I think they talk about this here. It says, 1 inch closer to the ability by increasing hit points, letting his spear goblins throw him a tiny bit further. While they're riding in his backpack, they use higher vantage point for longer range throws. So I don't think that they permanently have increased hit range even after they fall off the Goblin Giant. I think it's only when they're on top of him is what they're saying. So once they fall off, they'll become regular Spear Goblins. They won't technically be part of the Goblin Giant unit anymore. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken about this, that they're going to have their regular attack range. But either way, it makes the Goblin Giant slightly more viewable. I hope that they put him back into the meta with this change because it's a fun unit to play. And I think it's a great alternative. It would be great to see him in decks in the replacement of like regular Giant or Golem or something like that. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's another one I only use like in war battles. I'll pick him for my deck or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just use him as kind of a tankish card.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. These are a lot of cards that you wouldn't see a lot or you wouldn't use a lot because they're not in the best spot right now, and that's why they're receiving these tweaks, right? Except there are going to be a couple that we'll see that you'll be a little bit more familiar with and that you use, especially the last one here. We'll talk about that.
Well, and I'm somebody who sticks with the same thing a lot, so...
Right, yeah, whereas I like to play all the different cards, so I definitely... These balance changes affect me personally more because I play a lot of different decks and things like that, as you guys know if you're fans of my channel. Alright, the next one is the Golem. So the Golemite death damage pushback is being reduced. So this isn't anything major, and like don't let this like throw you away from being a Golem player or like make you no longer want to play Golem if you're a Golem player, because it's really small. It's just like the little Golemites, the little babies, when they died, they would push stuff back just as far as the Golem. So, you know, having that reduction, it makes it just a little bit more like aesthetically pleasing, and it makes sense a little bit more. And it just, I don't know, it just makes sense mechanically more, because you'll have this tiny little Golem, you know, which is supposed to be a mini version of the Golem, which is reduced in every way, you know, attack, death damage, you know, hit points, everything, right, is reduced compared to the Golem, except for the pushback radius. So having a smaller unit would make sense that it would push them back not as far. It's funny seeing something really heavy, you know, like a Prince or whatever, I don't know, getting pushed back real far from like a Golem, right? So what do you think about that? Do you run into Golem a lot?
Oh yeah, like all the time.
Yeah.
So it sounds good to me. I didn't even know about the pushback actually. I never noticed it. But yeah, that sounds good because I'm always fighting the Golem.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, it's a card that I play against that's getting nerfed, so I'm happy.
Yeah, because he's really strong, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a plus for me.
Yeah, I would agree it is, because you don't play him, but you play against him.
Yeah,
Alright,
every time.
Freeze. Freeze is getting tower damage, reduction of 65%. So basically, what this does is it puts Freeze at the same level, the same damage as the other damaging spells. They only do like 65% or whatever of their damage to a spell, to a tower. So it doesn't make sense that like a Zap, a Fireball, a Poison all do less damage to towers than they do to units, but then the Freeze is the same amount. So this is just kind of to put that thing back on par with the rest of the spells. I don't think that this will take Freeze out of the meta too much. I feel like this is something that's really minor. The fact that Freeze now does damage at all, to me, the fact that it did damage to the tower wasn't a huge factor of that. It was more the fact that it could clear out swarms. It could do a little bit of damage to, you know, minion hordes that could then be zapped or whatever, you know, so on and so forth. And it just freezes for 5 seconds, and it, you know what I mean? The little bit of chip damage to the tower is not hugely paramount to its, you know, power, right? Its overall power right now, I feel like, personally. I could be mistaken. Maybe that tower damage was a major part of it, and we'll see that people will be playing it less and less. But I'm not sure, you know? We'll have to wait and see how the meta plays out, but that's just kind of my opinion on it. I'm sure that you've been running into Freeze more and more, right?
Yeah, it shuts down my barbarians quite a bit.
Yeah.
When they get near the tower, they freeze them, and then they're done.
Right.
So, yeah, it's been annoying.
So it sounds like it's more of a defensive problem for you. Like, they use it on defense, and that's what gives you a problem.
Yeah.
So this won't affect you too much, honestly, because this is an offensive thing. This is only the tower damage. You know, when they use it on your tower, it does less damage to the tower now.
So people use it just to freeze the tower?
You can use it to freeze the tower and everything around it.
And then it'll do damage also.
Yeah, it does a little bit of damage. It never did damage before until they reworked it last month. Okay. Now it does a little bit of damage, like a Zap or something like that.
People use it like that, too, on me.
On offense? Yeah, so that'll affect the offensive a little bit, because it does less damage to your tower now, so that'll be a little bit better for you. Alright, next unit is the Sparky. Now Sparky, if you guys are aware, Sparky actually got a range increase from 4.5 up to 5 at one point. And this was actually in the last patch, and it was one of those hidden balance changes. I don't know why they didn't announce it, or if it was like under the table, or I don't know what was going on. But anyway, it got a range increase to 5, and a lot of Sparky players were like, alright, awesome, you know, the Electro Dragon's there, but Sparky now has 5 range. And then it got, you know, kind of hiddenly nerfed back down to 4.5. And I think there was one other unit, I think like the Archers got a minor attack range increase or something like that they didn't announce. I can't recall exactly which one it was, but it was something like that. So, I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they would revert it back and why they would do it in the first place and not announce it. But anyway, now we're getting an announcement that it's going to be increased to 4.75. So it's not an increase back to the full 5 range, the full 5 tile range. Well, you get 4.75 tiles now, which is pretty good. You know, she's just been in a weak spot for like years now. Even before they had as many stun cards, before they had Zappies, and before they had Electro Dragon, she was just in a weak spot because of like Electro Wizard and Zap and things like that. And now they just have more and more stun cards that counter her. I don't think that this is going to give her as much oomph as she needs. They've been buffing her here and there. They gave her an attack or a charge up speed increase from 5 seconds down to 4 seconds, and that was huge. And she was all over the place for like a day or two because everybody was trying her out, and then people realized she still wasn't that great. So early on, she's a powerhouse. She's super strong if she's your first legendary and you're pushing with her early on. She's super great. But other than that, she's just not very viable compared to a lot of other alternatives. She's kind of easy to counter and easy to predict how she's going to be played and so on and so forth. So I don't think that this will bring her back into the meta too much, but I do think that she needs these buffs, so hopefully she continues to get them. What's your take on Sparky?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Like, as long as I have my Inferno Dragon or the minions, like, she's pretty easy to shut down.
Yeah, and you have Zap too,
so,
right?
Yeah, I'm kind of like whatever, you know.
Yeah, and you probably don't see her too much, I would imagine.
No, just now and then.
Yeah.
So.
Alright, so not too big of a deal for where she's at, which is, you know, in the, like, 3,800, 4,000 trophy range right around there. Alright, Battle Ram is next. Battle Ram is getting charge damage reduced by 11%. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if it needed that. Battle Ram got nerfed recently, too, by, what did they do to it? They made it charge slow, the charge up time longer, so everything is balanced, like Prince, Dark Prince, Battle Ram, Mega Knight's Jump, all those things are going to be balanced out at like a perfect same charge speed. I can't remember if it's like 3.5 or 4 seconds or something. So Battle Ram received the tail end of that, whereas somebody who charged really slow would have received it as a buff because it got a reduction. Battle Ram charged quicker, and so it got nerfed, and now they're nerfing it again. I don't feel like it's that great of a card. A lot of people have been talking about how they need to nerf Three Musketeers, and Battle Ram is a very, very staple card in Three Musketeers decks. And what they've been doing for months and months and months is nerfing all the cards around the Three Musketeers decks, but then people just find different counterparts that work out really well. Three Musketeers is a very difficult card to balance because you've got the Musketeers affected as well. It's difficult to do them because it's all considered the same kind of unit. So I think, and a lot of people think that the ultimate solution for that would be to reskin the Three Musketeers, make them its whole own unit, so that the Musketeers can be balanced on their own, just like they did with the Rascals. They didn't just slap a Knight and 2 Archers together, right? They reskinned it, they made it its whole own unit so that they could balance it accordingly and do things like, okay, Rascal Girls die to log, but Archers don't die to log, and they can make those awesome balance changes and, you know, do what they need to do with a little bit more effectiveness. So I think that that would be a great way to solve that problem. I don't necessarily agree with this Battle Ram change, and I believe, my opinion is that it was probably to nerf Three Musketeer decks. That's mostly what you see it in. You do see it in, like, I really love that Barbarian Hut Royal Recruits deck, and this is going to see a nerf because of that. Next we have up the Barbarian Hut, and, you know, of course that's going to be nerfed as well, and that's going to affect that deck as well. But the Battle Ram being nerfed, I think it will open up room for the Ram Rider a little bit more. She's pretty decent. I like her a lot. She's fun to play, and I think that nerf, that's probably what they're going for, is, you know, to nerf Three Musketeers and to open up room for the Ram Rider a little bit more. So do you run into the Battle Ram a lot?
Quite a bit, yeah. But it doesn't seem that powerful, so I'm kind of indifferent to it. But
yeah,
I mean, that's the one with the Barbarians.
Yeah,
right?
the 2 Barbarians, it looks like they're carrying a giant pencil.
And then yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it quite a bit, but I'd never have too much trouble with it.
Okay, cool.
So,
yeah, I won't be too worried about it. Alright, next we have the Barbarian Hut, and as I mentioned, this is a really straightforward one. We don't need to talk about this too much. Barbarian Hut has seen, surprisingly, it's seen a huge amount of prevalence in the past few patches. I don't know what happened, Barbarians have been like weak and kind of cruddy for a long time. The hut hasn't been that great. It hasn't been meta for a long time. It's not like it got a huge buff or anything, but all of a sudden it just was everywhere. Just the way that the meta shifted, the other cards that were countering it, got nerfed and so on and so forth, and then the Royal Recruits Barbarian Hut decks started popping up, and the Three Musketeers Barbarian Huts decks, and then probably even Golem Barbarian Hut decks, and all kinds of stuff. So this hit point reduction to the Barbarian Hut, I think it's a great way for them to solve that problem, because I think that was a huge problem with the fact with what it how do I say this? That was like the major problem of the Barbarian Hut. It was so beefy. It just had so much HP. So now it'll get a hit point reduction. It will still spawn the same amount of barbarians at the same speed and everything. It'll just have a little bit less health. So do you run into the Barbarian Hut a lot where you're at?
Not too often, but I do get kind of worried when I see it because it can like pile up pretty quickly for me and then take down one of my towers. So this is a positive for me.
Okay.
If the health goes down.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's kind of difficult for you to play against because you're running like E-Barbs and Prince, but the Valkyrie should do a good job of countering that hut.
Yeah, she helps, or I can use my Fireball. But sometimes I get these big pile-ups.
Yeah, you don't want to be wasting your Fireball on just a few barbarians,
Yeah.
So.
Or I'll use it on the building too.
Yeah, even then, that's like there's arguments that's not very good value.
Yeah.
Because then it still has so much health, but maybe this will help that a little bit, so it'll be a little bit more valuable for you to do things like Fireball the Barbarian Hut.
Yeah.
All right, Barbarian Barrel deploy time is being reduced. So this guy, he received so many buffs. He received buff after buff after buff after buff. If you look at the 2018 recap from Clash Royale, Rumham talks about it and talks about how he buffed him like 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row, and then they nerfed him like twice in a row. He's being nerfed again. He was super prevalent. He really pushed like Log and Zap, and especially Snowball. Not like Snowball was every meta, but pushed all those other light spells off the map a bit. Zap was the light spell for like a year or two. It was like the most common card in the game forever, and most widely used. And then Barbarian Barrel just kind of finally became meta, and everyone's been using it. And I really like it. It's got some interesting utility. The fact that it's a light spell that also spawns a relatively tanky unit, and having just one Barbarian, which is unheard of because it's usually with the 4 Barbarians or the 2 from the hut. It's kind of interesting interaction to me. It counters swarms great, just like a Log, but it also counters like Musketeers and Wizards really well because it does a good chunk of damage, and then the Barbarian finishes them off, and then the Princess Tower can be chipping away in the meantime if you time it correctly. So one of the buffs that they gave it was they made the Barbarian pop out a lot quicker, and that was in one of the last patches, one of the recent balance changes. So what they're doing now is the deploy time is being reduced again, so he's not going to pop out quite as quickly. I think that it's still going to be really strong and meta. I'm not too worried about this, but hopefully it'll leave the room open for a little bit of the other light spells, like the Zap and the Log and so on and so forth. Have you run into the Barbarian Hut a whole lot?
Oh, the barrel?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the barrel, thank you. If I said hut, I meant barrel. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, quite a bit. And, it never really shuts down my tower or anything like that.
No, it can't connect to a tower. It doesn't have that much range.
Yeah. Or the Barbarian coming out or anything.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it doesn't scare me that much. So.
Well, I don't think there's too much in your deck that you have to worry about because she's running like E-Barbs, Prince, Valkyrie, Minions Inferno Dragon, and then spells, and what else? Rage, right?
Yeah,
so there's
it
really...
doesn't
affect you that much in your personal deck. But if you're running, a lot of support or a lot of swarm units, it definitely affects you. Yeah. So this deploy time reduction, I think, will be really good against. It'll be like nerf, especially against support units like Musketeers and stuff, because it'll take longer for that Barbarian to hop out, and it'll give more time for the support unit to shoot him down before he gets there.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, this one will affect you.
Yeah.
Definitely, Valkyrie. Valkyrie. Oh boy, she has been a hot topic for some time. She got buff after buff after buff ever since the dawn of time, since the dawn of Clash Royale, and then she was just so strong. She had the 1.4 second attack speed, and they finally brought it all the way back up to 1.6 seconds, which is what she was initially. So she maintained all those like damage increase buffs and her hit point increase buffs. She's still really beefy. She still does a lot of damage, but she didn't attack quite as quickly. And as we learned, that initial attack speed, or attack speed overall, can play a huge role in the effectiveness of a card. So before she would do things like she would be able to counter a Barbarian Barrel a Goblin Barrel as it landed on the tower. If she was placed properly, she would just cleave them all immediately before they even split, and they'd be dead. She is no longer able to do that since they increased her attack speed back up to 1.6. So now she's able to attack at a 1.5 second attack speed. It's not the initial or the original 1.4 that she had. I shouldn't say original because originally it was 1.6, but it wasn't the 1.4 that she had in her glory days, but it's kind of right in between. I think that this is really good. I think that that attack speed decrease really pushed her off the map, and I feel like she just hasn't been as great of a card since. Hopefully this brings her back without making her too overpowered.
She's been a really good card for me still, though. I mean, I use her all the time, so I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, definitely. She's like definitely one of Clarissa's core cards. She's in a lot of her decks.
Yep.
So looking forward to this balance change, to this particular one.
Not again, the little Pittie.
All right, Bonnie, which was your favorite one of the balance changes? Was it the heal? Was it the Valkyrie? Barbarian Hut? What do you think? Well, there's none of them that have kitties in them, and she just wants to chase all the kitties, so...
Maybe the barrel. She might like the barrel.
Yeah, she'd like to go rolling in a barrel, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. She's kind of in a roly-poly position right now.
Alright, say bye, Bonnie. Make sure to leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I cover every time there's a set of balance changes. I make sure to respond and react to them. I also cover a whole bunch of decks and things like that. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you have anything to say. I'll make sure to get back to you. Any last words?
No, I'm good. Sounds like you're going to kill me. Any last words?
Oh gosh, yeah, thanks for putting that in there. Wonderful way to end my video. Okay. Do you have any closing remarks for this video that we're recording?
No, I'm good.
Any shout-outs? Mom! I'm on TV!
More Bonnie or Freddie, maybe.
Yeah, Freddie. Oh yeah, Freddie used to be my banner. He's the boss.
Yeah.
Alright, thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a good night.